It's not like a slow cooker. You don't set AI and forget it.
I'm glad you mentioned AI, because AI is one of my favorite things.
You always need a human to make those strategic decisions off of the data and the results you're getting back from your AI. You cannot get rid of people. You augment your team. We do a terrible job with gatekeeping and then complaining that we don't have enough people. All of us know that we are audited constantly.
For sure.
We are held to a higher standard with our documentation.
SOC analysts and security as a whole, they're not really given their flowers until after an incident occurs and it's all remediated.
It's very difficult to actually make people realize the pain that could have happened. Unless it happens, then it's, why didn't you do your job?
Who says tech can't be human?
What's going on, Hacker Valley fam? Welcome back to the show. We are at Black Hat 2024. I'm super excited for the conference. There's a lot happening, but what's happening right now is I brought in a special guest, Kayla Williams, Chief Information Security Officer at Devo. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you on the show and help my audience learn a little bit about you and Devo. But let's start with talking about you, and it actually incorporates with Devo as well.
Yep.
How did you get started with the company? I've known about them, and I've always loved the security automation space, SOC space. But what was your entryway?
That's a great question. I actually did 5 years of auditing and then moved into security consultancy at a financial services firm. And that got me a lot of experience with the laws and regulations here in the US and abroad. I worked in the US and in the UK at the time. And then I moved into governance, risk, and compliance and enterprise risk management.
Yeah.
So that really kind of rounded me out with the what we call the second line of defense functions, working with legal and compliance and security. And I moved over to Devo as the VP of GRC. I did that for a while, building out their security program from the ground up under a CISO at the time. And then I moved up into CISO about a year or so later.
So what do you refer to it as? CISO? I hear CISO sometimes. Is there a difference?
There isn't a difference other than I think where you regionally are from. I say CISO, but yeah. I know most people say CISO out here.
Oh, okay. Out west.
Could be called worse, so I'll take it. Either way.
I used to think that I wanted to be a CISO because of the leadership opportunity and also the authority to make buying decision. But when I heard about all the things that come with the job, I had second thoughts. And I was like, I'm going to be a podcaster instead. What do you enjoy about the gig?
You know, every day is different. The dynamic nature of the job. I mean, just this morning over breakfast, I had a discussion with my compliance manager that you have to switch context multiple times a day, and you have to be active listening and having engaging conversations to understand and to be able to switch very quickly. And I feel like I'm just constantly learning something new. Maybe not good things, but I'm learning something and having to address it. And for me, being able to then take what I'm learning and kind of translate that into business risk for the business to understand so we can address it transparently and like right up front, I think is such a part of the job that I didn't expect to have. You know, there's always negotiation and then the EQ and the leadership side, but you learn so much about yourself that you can take back into your personal life as well. And it does come with its challenges as any job, I think any industry would. But for me, I'm intellectually curious. I like to learn, and that just keeps me on my toes constantly.
When you're curious, I feel like you lead to a lot of discovery. Like you start discovering things, and if your company enjoys those discoveries, they want more of it.
Yeah.
And something that I've heard from a lot of our guests and speaking to people at Black Hat is burnout, especially for CISOs. And then CISOs have to manage their teams that are also getting burnt out. When we were planning for the episode, you mentioned that you've done some research with Wakefield Research to kind of understand what causes this and what is the driving force. So talk a little bit about that research.
Yeah, it was fascinating, actually. We found that 83% of IT professionals that responded to our survey had said that their burnout due to stress, lack of sleep, insert any type of anxiety, has led to breaches because they're tired, they're not paying attention, they're not able to focus. And as a leader of a team that handles security incidents, that is a very staggering statistic. I look across my team and also our customers as well. And that's what I hear is I'm burnt out. It's alert fatigue. It's just constantly going. There's no reprieve really from it. And I myself wake up in the middle of the night, grab my phone, what I miss.
Yeah.
That panic. So I think if IT leaders, security leaders, whether you are, an influencer in your team, not just a people leader, it's on us to recognize and pay attention to that and say, okay, how can I help you? What can we do to make this better for you?
Yeah.
That way, everybody is contributing to that community. And I think it is a community effort. That research that we've done has proven we've done this for the past 4 years, that it's not getting better. And I think it's on the leaders and those influencers to lead that charge.
Yeah.
Lead by example too. I'm definitely guilty of not taking PTO. I just talked about it on the way here. Like, I haven't taken any time off this year. What example am I setting for my team if I don't do that? So
I feel like it's almost like a feeling of energy management. Like, you have to manage your energy. Like, if you exert too much energy, then you might feel like you're struggling. You might feel like you're not really making a dent in the work that you're doing. Is it sleep that's affecting people? Is it too many asks by their team or too many alerts? What have you found to be the case there?
it's a combination of all of it, I think. The alert fatigue for sure. Like, if you don't have the AI in your SOC platform that's able to kind of flush out those false positives for you and respond to them, open and close cases, and you are just flipping through screens that are just screaming at you all day, that's exhausting. Also, not being able to focus on real things that are risky to the business. You feel like you're not contributing to the bottom line. It's one of those roles, being in the SOC, where you're not appreciated on the front. Like, they don't understand. They don't see what you're doing every day.
Right.
Because how do you quantify and qualify something that doesn't happen, that you've stopped? It's very, sure, there's metrics, but it's very difficult to actually make people realize the pain that could have happened unless it happens. And then it's, why didn't you do your job?
Yeah.
So it can feel like a very thankless position to be in sometimes. The burnout that we're seeing is across every industry, every vertical, and it's really contributed to security being a cost center, or viewed as I don't view it as a cost center. I think we're very much value add. But security teams tend to be the first ones that are cut. So it's the same amount of work, same amount of alerts with less people.
Right. When we were planning for Black Hat, my team, we all got together and we realized that better planning leads to better execution. And I would imagine it's the same for security. What is the one thing that you've kind of synthesized from this research that could be that first step to reducing some of that feeling of burnout?
Great question. The first step, for me, is more on the EQ side of the leadership. There is a big disconnect between what the people in the boots on ground are saying that they're doing and what the leadership understands. And they don't understand the day-to-day grind of what it's like. They're never going to understand and be able to empathize with what those folks are feeling. But secondly, and I think it kind of goes hand in hand, is like the tool sets that you're using. If you're constantly switching in between screens because you have all these different technologies that don't integrate together, you're going to burn out anyway and be frustrated just from the context switching there.
Right.
But also, you can't then integrate any automation. Then that's where you're not augmenting your team. You're relying on the people for everything. And people make mistakes. People aren't going to be able to see, there's an anomaly. There's this pattern here that's kind of standing out, maybe not to the human eye, but a piece of AI would see it and be able to draw that to your attention. And that's possibly where you can then switch to something that's actually risky to the business and focus your energy there and feel that, I don't want to say adrenaline, maybe that is the right word to say, of, oh, I found something that I'm able to stop and
little inspiration.
Inspiration. Yeah, there we go. That's a much better word. And really feel like you are contributing to the safety of your organization.
I'm glad you mentioned AI, because AI is one of my favorite things. I love using ChatGPT. I know that's just a taste of AI, but I've been able to accelerate my work and outsource some of it to technology rather than just depending on yet another headcount. What are some of those use cases in cybersecurity that AI would be really effective at?
Yeah, one thing that we've seen, well, I'd say we've been hearing a lot of pushback with people saying, well, you're going to get rid of people.
Yeah.
No, that's not the intent at all. You cannot get rid of people. You augment your team. And what's great about the Devo platform is that we have it built in where you are augmenting your staff and freeing their time up to do, like I said before, more value add things or paying attention to those risks that might have been missed previously. It uses the saying, it's not like a slow cooker. You don't set AI and forget it. You don't do that. You have to have the human intervention, making sure that as it's learning and, what you're doing and it's got more data, you have to make sure it's still accurate and it's still giving you the results that you need. So It's definitely like not a set it and forget it situation. You always need a human to make those strategic decisions off of the data and the results you're getting back from your AI. So the notion that AI is going to replace everybody in a SOC or everybody in a security team or engineering team, it's just not going to happen. That's disastrous. But other ways that I've seen AI being really useful is if you have an AI, whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini, and it's your own and you have legal permission from your company and you're not putting corporate confidential data in there and you're not doing anything you shouldn't be doing against policy, is using it to help, you could do vendor reviews. You can upload a SOC 2 or a white paper and say, based on my criteria for this type of use case, are there risks here? Identify the top 3 things, or comparing and contrasting documentations. Are there any contradictions in this? And it's able to do it much faster than a human would be able to. It helps to kind of complement and speed up those processes as well, which I could see that as being a great use case when you're doing, especially vendor reviews, because my team does them and it's monotonous too.
Yes, a lot of work.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit more about Devo and what you all do. I know that it's partially data analytics, but then there's an automation component. So if you were to describe Devo to someone that hasn't really heard of the company yet, how would you describe it?
We're the best.
We're the
First
best.
and foremost,
Let's go.
we're the best.
Yes.
I mean, come on. No, we are a data analytics platform for security data, but really any data that you want to send to us, we'll happily take it. But we're SOAR, we're threat intel. We are an all-in-one package, one-stop shop for you, and we can scale to meet your needs. We can go up, we can go down. The way we do our billing is very different from other people in the industry. It's an average over your month. So for some reason, let's say there is an incident that you have or an event and you're seeing an uptick in your data consumption, it evens out over the month. So you're not all of a sudden stuck with the extremely high bill that's going to be month over month.
Right.
And I think that's a great appeal, especially as I mentioned before, where you see security budgets and staff being cut. Companies are focusing on their spend. And this is a great way to help to augment your budget for that as well.
For something like that, I would want endpoint, I would want firewall, I would want cloud. If I could get SaaS, I would want to just send as much as I can to one place, because then you can make sense out of all of that. What has been, something interesting that you or one of your customers have found by aggregating all this information together?
I can't say the customer, but they were only adjusting at the time just their security logs, things from AWS, and watching that. And we had a conversation. It's like, you probably should be looking at your other critical applications that you have. And like, well, what do you mean? I was like, well, like your HRIS system, your financial systems. There's activity that can be happening there that you're not paying attention to. And sure enough, they started to ingest some of that data and started to find patterns and things that was actually an insider threat. And it was sending data other places, and their DLP wasn't picking it up either. So it ended up being, getting all these sources of information into one place and dealing with it head on.
I'd like to jump in for a second to share some details about our sponsor for this episode, Devo. The amount of data that we're consuming as security teams is skyrocketing. And so is the price tag of retaining all of those data volumes. If you're like me, you're tired of vendor lock-in. I'd like to introduce you to Devo, the platform that best fits your security needs, your data, and your business. Devo partners with teams to bring back actionable insights and leads innovation in ways that other security providers can't. With Devo, you can orchestrate and ingest petabytes of data from any source. You can build custom applications and integrations and automate SOC workflows for faster and more precise threat response. Ingest anything, defend everything. Take control of your security data today with Devo. You can learn more by visiting devo.com/defend-everything. Thank you, Devo, for sponsoring this episode.
I've always been curious about insider threat. I'm glad that you brought that up because unless you've experienced it, I don't necessarily think that people may be aware of the opportunity or what someone would go after. In this case, or any other cases that you've heard or experienced, what is that target that employees leave with?
Customer data.
Customer data.
Yeah. So the system that they were going into had customer contact data, sales leads, things like that, and they were providing it to a competitor. I've also seen instances where it's been going for using fake invoices and vendor things that way, and they were able to actually trace through our system into where they were going with their money.
Ooh,
yeah.
Not a good look.
No.
One piece that I've heard on LinkedIn especially is that SOC analysts and security as a whole, they're not really given their flowers until after an incident occurs and it's all remediated. But you all have been working on something special, SOC Appreciation Day.
Yes.
What is the story behind it? How was it created?
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. You don't get your flowers until it's all said and done.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's all behind the scenes and no one sees the things that you're protecting against. And that can make you feel like, what am I even doing here? They don't appreciate me. So Devo for the past 4 years has been doing SOC Analyst Appreciation Day, which is our virtual event where we just spend the whole day really showering our SOC analysts with that love and appreciation and recognition that they need. We have awards that are given out where companies can nominate people, or if you want to have your friends and family nominate you for an award as well. And just really giving back to that group of people who have been overlooked for so long. It's not, like I said, it's not until something happens that they get recognized. So it's time that companies start paying attention and giving them their flowers beforehand.
What do the people that attend this SOC Appreciation Day, what do they walk away with? It sounds like they could walk away with an award, but is there also trainings and other talks?
Yeah, we have a whole slew of guests. It's a full day that I MC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, host.
Yeah, it's so much fun with Security Weekly. And they'll come in and talk about the most recent threats landscape, what they're hearing about, how to protect against it. I mean, it's just a full day of topics and things of interest that would really focus on the SOC analyst.
Yeah.
And plus me with really cheesy jokes in the background, trying to be funny. I'm not, but I try and keep people engaged. So
when I first met you and Jackie, that was you all lit up like a Christmas tree when you talked about SOC Appreciation Day. It sounds very special to you all.
Yeah, I love it. And it's fun hearing people's stories, right? Everybody has a different avenue of how they got into security. One of the talks that I've given, actually just recently, I did it for Blue Team Con online. I did it last year there as well, but it's the non-traditional paths into cyber. And my favorite story I tell is about someone I know who hired an inner city bus driver to be an incident response manager because they knew how to stay calm in escalated situations. They knew how to write reports. They could manage different stakeholders. And you don't really think about those types of career paths leading into security, but they're complementary skill sets. And we often hear that the burnout is tied not just to the alert fatigue and things like that, but also the lack of people that are coming into the field, right? We have millions of job openings. Well, as leaders in this industry, it's on us to better equip the HR team with our requirements, make sure we're writing the appropriate job descriptions. You're not going to find a jack of all trades to replace a guy who did 6 different things anymore.
Right.
It's just not how it's going to happen. And we got to really know what we need. If you need an incident response manager, you need someone who can stay calm, document, and knows how to coordinate things together. So if you're trying to hire someone with a 15-year background in, a cybersecurity engineering degree from, one of the top Ivy League schools in the world, you're not going to necessarily need all of that. So focus on what you actually really need and bring in the right person for the role that will give you the most value.
We are so easily distracted by shiny objects. You see someone's resume, you see all the experience. They might not really be that passionate about the job. So I think that's a good point that you brought up, especially about the bus driver. Like, bus drivers are built different. They have a true passion for bedside manner, caring for the people that are on the bus. So I think that is definitely important, is, also pairing the job with someone that truly wants to, be helpful and be responsive.
Yeah, especially after, COVID and the downturn in the market for our industry, being more open-minded about the people that we are bringing into these roles. Like we do a terrible job with gatekeeping and then complaining that we don't have enough people. If you don't really need all the certificates and all those fancy degrees. I have an accounting degree, right? Like, you never would have thought that I'd be here. And it's just a better way to bring folks in. Sure, will it work out all the time? No, but does the person with the $50,000 degrees and certificates, really understand hands-on? Not necessarily. So
yeah,
I think it's definitely an opportunity for improvement for all of us to do better here.
When you look at the future, if you had a magical crystal ball, the best companies, they solve problems and they build solutions to solve them. So when you look at your magical crystal ball, you're looking into the future, what are the problems that we're going to experience, and how do you anticipate you and Devo approaching those problems?
Absolutely AI.
AI,
our favorite topic, right?
Yeah.
It's a great help, but it's also going to be a hindrance for us. And then we have the threat of quantum coming, and then people are muttering quantum AI as well. So what's going to happen when you have that computing power behind AI? It's going to be used for good? Maybe. Probably more so on the other
60%
side,
of the
right?
time.
That's very optimistic of you. So I really think that you're going to need to have a security tool like Devo that can use AI for good to do that anomaly detection, to do the opening and closing of cases for you that are, that false positive, that monotony, so that your analysts, the people who have to be there, right? You're never going to be replacing the person fully, to look at and focus on the real risks that are coming in. Forget the minutia. The minutia is always going to be there. You need to have your teams really focusing on the bigger ticket items. And that's where AI will be coming in for good while it's being, amped up for the bad.
For sure. If you were to give someone that is a SOC analyst, that's an aspiring CISO, a piece of advice to, avoid that burnout, but to also ultimately reach their goal of becoming a CISO, what would your advice to them be?
First and foremost, take your vacation time. I'm the worst for it. I know Jackie's laughing at me right now. Like, I know I have problems. I have type A. But definitely, it's not about the technical skills anymore. I really feel that the CISO role is actually going to morph into a CISRO, information security and risk officer, because the security function, all of us know that we are audited constantly.
For sure.
We are held to a higher standard with our documentation, our outputs, the things that we're doing. So we are more disciplined as a group of professionals than most other areas in the organization are. And I can really see, outside of financial services and the industries that have been regulated for a long time and already have a risk officer, those CISOs becoming the enterprise risk management team as well, having that function, looking at operational risk, financial risk, strategic risks, because we know what we're doing. We know how to find those things. We already have a way to quantify and qualify. So I really feel that if you want to learn the next phase of being a CISO and what's coming, is to learn risk management, because with it comes governance and compliance, just doing risk management as a whole. And that's really going to give you a well-rounded skill set to really focus in any industry, in any size company going forward. So learn about the business side through risk management and you'll be golden.
Powerful. Take some time off.
Yes.
Learn about risk management and you will definitely have a positive outcome. I couldn't agree more. Kayla, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy black hat, jumping on the mics with us. If you haven't done so already, make sure you follow Devo. I would highly encourage all of our listeners to check them out and also to connect with Kayla. And with that, we will see everyone next time.